President Biden repeatedly denied House lawmakers allegations about the Biden family making $24 million selling Access and the Biden family brand overseas. The president repeatedly denied interacting with Hunter Biden and his business partners. Watch this.
I did not know he was on the board of that company. I've never discussed my business or their business, my sons or daughters. I never discussed a single thing with my son about anything having to do with Ukraine. I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period.
Joining us now, former Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz. Jason, it's good to see you. Jason, is this going to be one of the key impeachment charges out of the House against the president? That House lawmakers accuse President Biden of lying over and over and over again to the American people, when White House visitor logs, emails, text messages show dozens of communications between Vice President Biden and Hunter Biden and his business partners.
Look, lying as a politician, you're not going to get indicted or impeached for lying, even though repeatedly Joe Biden lied about that. What he could get impeached on is inappropriately taking income. This whole case with Hunter Biden and all the salacious details is important. It's important because, remember, the Democrats are the one that preached to the world that nobody's above the law, and it's an important case. But then very quickly, it's going to swing to, where did all this money come from? And if you remember, the Democrats went after Donald Trump because he was going to take money from and be a subject to China and Russia and Ukraine. And guess what? The allegations are such that Joe Biden and the Biden family is taking by the millions of dollars money from our adversaries. Is he compromised? Did he inappropriately take that money? Did he break the law with a misdemeanor? Or did he commit treason? Those are the things that will drive an impeachment case, and there is a growing list of evidence. Even Joe Biden this week said that there was no evidence and that it was all a lie. But that's not what the records show.
Yeah, I mean, there's dozens of examples of the former vice president speaking or meeting with Hunter Biden's foreign business associates. This news coming in, this breaking news, Senator Ron Johnson reportedly told Just the News that U.S. banks filed at least 6 suspicious activity reports about the Biden family business deals with the U.S. Treasury, that those bank filings cited the Biden family's Biden's Wilmington, Delaware property. And basically, let me just read it to you. So banks reportedly were red flagging to the U.S. Treasury about millions of dollars of family business deals overseas that passed through Biden's Wilmington, Delaware home. The senator reportedly said, yeah, there might be double counting here. But these are, again, more banks' suspicious activity reports citing the president's Wilmington, Delaware home for the U.S. banks were red flagging it that possibly $12 million was sluicing through using the Biden family home address here. What do you think?
Those are the types of things that drive an impeachment inquiry and why the House is going to vote on it next week. You have 175 suspicious activity reports, which is Treasury doing its job saying this looks inappropriate. This money flowing overseas might be used in some sort of money laundering scheme. And when you look at the 20 plus LLCs that the Bidens had set up, and some of those payments now are going directly from China to the LLC to Joe Biden. And yet the Democrats sit there and say there's no evidence. And now we find out, Senator Johnson, Senator Grassley do amazing work, that money is flowing through the Wilmington, Delaware residents. Come on, folks.
I mean,
this demands an inquiry.
Yeah, this demands further investigation. And the banks were reportedly concerned about possible criminal activity involving money laundering, human trafficking. And there's also this. The National Archives reports are coming in, this news. It's coming in that the National Archives reportedly will release 62,000 pages of Biden vice presidential records to the House impeachment probe. Let me just look at this news coming in, including that the president at that time under the Obama White House used fake alias email accounts. So is the House impeachment inquiry going to move forward looking into the fake email accounts? Also, they're going to possibly get more details about Biden bribery allegations. What do you think?
Yeah, we know that there are actually, Archives has more than 80,000 of these documents. The idea that they're going to release 62,000 is a good start, but it begs the question, why not the additional 20+ thousand that they have there in their possession? We also know that Joe Biden directly emailed Eric Schwerin, the business partner of Hunter Biden, yet he said he never had a discussion. There's 300 emails that say otherwise.
Got it. Jason Chaffetz, thanks for joining us. It's good to see you.